This is one of the best motivational movies ever made. Every time I watch it, it can always give me strength when I am confused and helpless. I share it with you. A few months ago, Chris spent all his savings on these medical scanners. He wanted to make a fortune, but he miscalculated. No one wants to buy such an expensive and impractical thing. He hasn't sold one in a long time. The rent was owed for a few months, and the car was towed away because it couldn't pay the ticket. He could not pay for his son's child care. Wife was forced to do 2 jobs, mocking and cursing at him all day. Everything is overwhelming him. Happiness is just beyond his reach. Until one day, he met a man driving a sports car. So he mustered up the courage to step forward and ask 2 questions.
Man, I got 2 questions for you. What do you do and how do you do it?
I'm a stockbroker.
Stockbroker? Oh, shit. Had to go to college to be a stockbroker, huh?
You don't have to. Had to be good with numbers and good with people.
Watching the man enter the building, he was lost in thought. The faces of people going in and out of the building beamed with happiness. Look at yourself. You've been working hard, but your life is still a mess. He also asked himself a question.
Why couldn't I look like that?
Chris was determined to make a difference. He applied for an internship at a securities firm. But there were so many applicants that no one would notice him. So he decided to take his resume directly to the personnel director. After a few days of waiting, finally met the personnel director. Personally handed in the resume. But still no news. Chris didn't give up. He waited downstairs for a month and finally met his supervisor again. But he didn't want to talk to him. Hurried into a taxi.
Mr. Twistle. Actually, I'm on my way to Noy Valley also. How about we share a ride?
In the car, Chris kept introducing himself. But the supervisor is fiddling with his Rubik's Cube toy. He didn't pay attention to him. Chris said he can make the Rubik's Cube. The supervisor then raised his head and said, "It's impossible. No one can spell it out." Chris said, "I must spell it out," before getting off the car. Then, in the supervisor's dumb expression, Chris finished the last side, then he got out and walked away. But he didn't pay the fare. Chris couldn't afford it. He had to run away, running all the way. He came to the subway station. The driver was still chasing. He ran into the subway. But the scanner got stuck outside. He can't get it back. 1 month's food expenses are gone. But what makes him unacceptable is yet to come. When he returned home in the evening, his wife had gone with her son. It was something he would never allow to happen. He has lacked the love of his father since he was a child. He met my father when he was 28. So he vowed to accompany his son when he grew up. The only good news was that his supervisor called and told him to go for an interview the day after tomorrow. The next day, Chris went early to pick up his son from daycare. But misfortunes never come singly. The landlord gave an ultimatum. Let Chris move out tomorrow morning. Chris fought for another week. For helping painting the walls. The next day, Chris was painting the walls. New trouble comes again. The police came to the door because it had been too long to pay the ticket. Chris was taken to the police station. He has to be locked up until tomorrow morning, but he has an interview same time. How to do? Life really gave him a hard time. Early the next morning, Chris had no time to change his clothes, so he rushed all the way to the company and finally caught up with the interview. It was finally Chris's turn. But the leaders are very upset to see Chris dressed like this.
I've been sitting out there for the last half hour trying to come up with a story that would explain my being here dressed like this. And I wanted to come up with a story that would demonstrate quality. So the truth is, I was arrested for failure to pay parking tickets. Parking tickets?
The leaders were amused. Then the leaders asked a few more questions. Chris answered them all. In the end, the leader asked the ultimate question.
What would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
It was a good answer, and he passed. But the bigger problem is coming. There is no salary for the 6-month internship, and only 1 out of 20 will be admitted in the end. Is it possible to get admitted? How to survive without salary? But Chris didn't give up. He still has a glimmer of hope. He still has 6 scanners. They moved to a cheaper motel. Chris entered the internship stage in the following days. He is really desperate, and he is the first to the company every day. Not even drinking water to save time. So he need to go to the bathroom. Because he has to leave work early to pick up his son. He had to put in 3 times more effort than the others. The head of the company always makes him run errands. He never complained. One day, a big client asked him to be there in 20 minutes. Just outside the gate, the leader asked him to help parking the car. By the time he got there, the client had already left. The leader's car was also issued a ticket. Fines must be paid by himself.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Life was too hard. But he never thought of giving up. Chris took his son to apologize to the client for his missed appointment. Client invited him to watch the game. Although he did not win customers, he took advantage of this opportunity to get acquainted with many wealthy people. Customer resources are opened all at once. The rest of the scanners have also been sold. Their life is slowly getting better. But then came the bad news. All the money in his account was taken by force. Because he had not paid the ticket for too long. He was really broke now. While playing with his son in the park, Chris saw someone holding his scanner. It's the one lost in the subway station. Chris asked for the scanner back. If they can sell this one, they still have hope. But this scanner isn't working. Reality brought Chris to the bottom again. Because the rent was in arrears for too long, father and son were kicked out again, desperate. Chris took his son to the subway station. It hurt Chris to see his son feeling sleepy and hungry. So they played a game, pretending the scanner was a time machine. They're back in the age of the dinosaurs. And he see his son laughing. That's probably the only thing that keeps Chris going. Chris took his son into the toilet, covered it with toilet paper, and locked the door. They're gonna have to sleep here tonight. How difficult is life? To make a man hide in the toilet overnight with his son. Chris hugged his son tightly. There was a knock on the door outside. He pressed his foot against the door and covered his son's ear with his hand. This extremely strong man can't bear it anymore. The next day, a coworker asked Chris why bring luggage to work. Chris smiled and replied, "Oh, I'm on a business trip," only he knows the bitterness behind. After getting off work, he picks up my son and rushes to the asylum to line up, otherwise they have to live in the toilet. No one wants to experience that taste once again. Finally they are about to be lined up. But there are only 4 places left. Then a man took the opportunity to cut in line and attack Chris. Chris really broke out. Thanks to some kind witness, Chris moved into a shelter. Chris bathed his son in the evening. As long as 2 people together, there is nothing cannot get through.
You gotta trust me.
I trust you.
I can't hear you.
I trust you.
In the days that followed, Chris worked hard during the day
Your wife, Martha, works at Packville also, correct?
and fought desperately for a bed with his son after work. The final exam finally came. Chris finished it quickly. He had to run to pick up his son. He met the leader without a wallet. Chris looked at the $5 that had been lying in his wallet for so long. He hesitated. This $5 means a lot to him. But at last he borrowed it. In the following days, Chris, who was really helpless, went to sell blood once. Then he bought a light bulb. He had to fix the scanner. That evening, Chris finally fixed the scan. Pressing the switch, the light of hope illuminates the whole room. Soon, Chris sold the scanner. and finally took a sigh of relief. They checked into the hotel this night. And the father and son fell asleep cuddling each other. But the bed is empty. At the end of the internship period, only one of 20 people will stay. Can Chris stand out? No one can tell.
Listen, whatever happens, you've done a fantastic job, Chris. I mean that. Take care of yourself.
He worked as hard as ever. The leader came over and asked Chris to come. Chris is a little nervous. Took off his glasses, put on his coat, and went into the office. Calmly joked with the leaders. Then he learned that he had passed the test. Chris's eye circles instantly turned red, and he nodded unceasingly. All grievances and bitterness were finally released at this moment. He succeeded. Chris strode out, and there was something crystal in his eyes. And his hands trembled with excitement. Happiness finally knocked on his door. Chris applauded himself in the crowd. He was crying, but his face was full of happiness. The film ends with Chris taking his son for a walk. A black man walks by, and he's the prototype for this story. Chris Gardner is now a millionaire. Whenever I feel lost or complain that life is too hard, I will watch this movie. The night at 2 o'clock is quiet, and the sky at 5 o'clock in the morning is very charming. The seemingly fragmented pieces of life are secret tunnels to happiness. As long as you work hard, happiness will surely come knocking at the door.
It's called happiness.